Are you ready for Dr. Shashi Tharoor? And a special mic for Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Amazing.
Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India. In fact, Britain's industrial revolution was actually premised upon the deindustrialization of India.
Can you hear something? Okay. Hi, everyone.
Well, the people asked and the people will get,
Absolutely,
in a
especially
sense.
young people.
What a fantastic response you've got.
I'm very fortunate. Thank
It's
you.
a wonder you guys...
The feeling is mutual.
It's a wonder you guys lost the elections. I mean, look at the way they're screaming. It's like a rock star. Amazing. Let's hear
I
it
won
again.
my election, sir.
Sorry?
I won my
You won. You did. You did. All right. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, how many people want to ask him important questions? But I want 5 minutes because I have some hard-hitting questions I'd like to ask. It would be better if your lawyer is present. I don't know if we have one. Maybe we do. But may I?
Of course you may.
All right. I've been researching and going through Dr. Shashi Tharoor's life and works. And the first question that I have to ask, very, I think, hard-hitting and perhaps difficult to answer. Are you the best-looking parliamentarian?
No.
Okay, I'll ask you. My God, it's like Elvis. What kind of response is that? Wow.
You haven't seen some of the new entrants in this this parliament. Oh, yes.
So old is no longer gold.
Old is no longer. Well, I'm not sure it
one
ever was.
Yeah.
But it isn't, certainly.
I hope we're not talking about the party here.
Not even in the top 5 as far as... You should see some of the absolute stunners in our parliament. Now let's get to something less serious.
Fair enough. I also, English as a language. I personally got 90% in English, and I thought I speak pretty good English. But Kunal and I, we do a show together. We listen to your speeches sometimes, and we're flawed. We also struggle to understand half of it because the language is, I don't know, Chaucerian or perhaps even before him. Too big a word, huh? So, where's this gift coming from? And how do you talk to anyone in Parliament? Because if we struggle, I'm just thinking.
Oh, come on, sir. This is. In fact, I actually speak exactly the way I'm speaking to you now, and I don't think I have any difficulty understanding what I'm saying. Once in a while, I might use a word that, I picked up in St. Stephen's College while debating at Delhi University in the early 70s. And people actually understood what you were trying to say, even if you used difficult words. We seem no longer to be doing that, but what the heck. I mean, the truth is that I really try to speak to be understood. I don't particularly want to use words that people can't understand.
And then there's the internet, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. 2 clicks of the mouse, you'll find out what I mean.
Exactly. But
also, I never said fugacious. I mean, no one says fugacious. Not even Shashi.
Kunal, he never said fugacious. Does anybody know what fugacious means? Now silent. Now you stun the audience.
But I should know. I'm not Shashi Tharoor, right? So, yeah, no.
All right.
It's Cyrus has this show in which he parodies me, or rather he gets an actor who's sitting in the front row taking notes right now to parody me.
Right.
And one of the words he's accused me of using is fugacious. Now, no one says fugacious. Fugacious is supposed to be fleeting, temporary, No one says that. You say fleeting if you must. You say temporary. No one says fugacious. Sagacious, maybe.
All right.
Audacious, maybe, but not
Okay,
fugacious.
stop it. You're blinding me. I can't take it anymore. Okay, let me. I'll just ask you, just like we do in early psychology pieces. I'll put out a word. Just give me your first reaction to it. All right? Toast.
Butter.
Bread.
Toast.
President of the Indian National Congress.
Rahul Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi. Sorry.
Wow!
I got that.
Oh, that's gonna be on the internet.
Trip,
These kids are too quick. They're gonna press that mouse, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. It's gone into the universe.
Absolutely failed that.
Oh, fugacious. A fugacious moment. Just a temporary absence of whatever. That's done. Shall we have a quick, because they all want to ask questions, I don't want to waste their time. Shall we have an English test, like a dance-off, words off. So you ask me the toughest English words you know, and I reply, and they'll judge. Should we do that? Ready? Anything.
I have to ask you
Yeah,
the meaning
so you
of a
serve
word.
first, and you ask, and I answer. Then I return the serve, and I ask, and you answer. So round one, पेश करते हैं Dr. Shashi Tharoor in concert.
Liminal.
Shh, I can't hear. Say it again.
Liminal.
Libby?
Liminal.
Limina. This is my neighbor's daughter.
Good one. All right, that's your turn now.
Oh, Limina. My turn. Mosterics.
What?
Mosterics.
Mosterids?
Mosterics.
Mosterids. I don't know. I guess it's an asteroid gathering moss on its
It's
way
just
down.
a word I made up right now.
Ah, well, no wonder.
I just thought it sounded good. All right, Dr. Tharoor, I won't. I'll ask you one question, and then I'm going to really open up, and that is, what direction do you see India going in? I don't want it. I don't want to set this up as trying to attack or bait or sound like I'm trying to support a party or something. But where do you think India is headed?
Look, frankly, Cyrus, I'm a bit worried because the truth is that, we haven't been the perfect country on earth, but we've been making pretty good progress. If you look at where we were in 1947 when the British left, with 16% literacy, with 90% of the population below the poverty line, with massive numbers of infant mortality, maternal mortality, with illness and epidemic disease rife. I mean, we had been, under the last few years, the British, a kind of poster child for third world poverty. And since then, we've pulled ourselves up. That 16% literacy is now over 79. We've got practically no significant major epidemics, infant mortality, women's mortality, much better, much more under control. We've got life expectancy that's gone up from 26 then to 70 today.
26?
It was 26 when the British left. The average
So
Indian
they're
born-
middle-aged in those days.
Yeah, absolutely. They'd be very senior citizens by now. So the fact is that we've really come a long way. And in the last sort of 10 years of the UPA government, we were pulling about 10 million of people every year out from below the poverty line. Now, suddenly we are told that everything in the last 60, 70 years is disastrous, that the answer for this country is a sort of majoritarian triumphalism in which a robust, muscular,
There you go again.
Hindutva, Hindustan is going to triumph, in which rules can be trod upon, where the freedom to dissent can be looked upon with suspicion, where nationalism is conflated with patriotism, and patriotism is conflated with loyalty to the government, and the government is synonymous with one party, and that one party is synonymous with one man, or now two men, or as some people say, 2.5 men, I don't know. The fact is, whatever it may be, a country in which Indians think twice before saying something on the phone, a country in which Indians hesitate to openly voice criticisms of the government they genuinely feel, a country in which, frankly, the spirit of the Constitution can be written roughshod over day after day. These are things that are very disturbing. Now, I'm not pretending that everything's been perfect in the past, so let's not go in for the whataboutery and what about this and what about that. All I'm saying is that, broadly speaking, we all knew the kind of India we've had for the last several decades. That's not the India of today, and therefore I worry about the India of tomorrow.
Fair enough, Dr. Tharoor, but the question here is, why was the performance in the center, 52 seats for the Congress, if India is not going in the right direction and people largely are paying attention to what's happening, why did the Congress perform so badly at the center, having performed so well in 3 to 4 state elections just a couple of months earlier?
Well, if you really want a sort of objective analysis of what went wrong in the elections, I think it's fairly clear that 2 or 3 very specific things helped change the result from what was being expected about the time the elections are called. One, in North India particularly, was the impact of the Pulwama attacks and Balakot. Partly because out of loyalty to the nation, we could not point to Pulwama as a failure of the Indian government that cost the precious lives of 46 of our Jawans. We had to sort of rally behind the government on what was a transcendent intelligence failure. And then it was difficult to openly criticize their claims on Balakot, even while the international media was deriding this attack as having just taken down a few trees on an uninhabited Pakistani hillside. So the result was the BJP was able to sell Pulwama and Balakot as a great assertion of muscular Indian sovereignty and nationalism. And that scored points in North India. It had no impact in the South, but here it certainly won a lot of votes. A second issue, undoubtedly, was the very effective selling of the Modi image as this larger-than-life figure. Because very often in conversations, even with educated people, the thing was reduced to Modi versus whom. And clearly, we didn't succeed in selling, as it were, the idea that it's men, it's hum. That message didn't get through at all. And in fact, if it got through, people didn't like it. So that helped the BJP government. The third factor is we thought the economy would work against the government because, we have the highest unemployment in 45 years. We have exports down, manufacturing down, industrial production down, agriculture in such distress that farmers are committing suicide in record numbers. There's literally nothing going right in the economy. And yet, people didn't vote in their economic self-interest. Why? Again, particularly in North India, the Modi government was successful in delivering very small but significant micro-level benefits that offset their macro-level failures. And the obvious examples people give are the toilets. Now, we would say rationally, but 65% of those toilets don't have running water, so no one can use them. Doesn't matter, at least they built them. Gas cylinders for the poor. We say statistics show 90% of the beneficiaries of these gas cylinders cannot afford a refill. So they're not able to refill them. And yet, again, Sarkar ne kuch na kuch to kiya, hamare liye kuch kiya, and that was enough. So these three big issues, the economy neutralized by the micro projects, the, shall we say, the limitations and inadequacy of the government, neutralized by the larger-than-life Modi image and the marketing of that image, and finally national security, which no one could challenge. These three things, I would say objectively, swung the election for the BJP.
And that's the short version. The long version is the whole of tomorrow, if we were to carry on. But you want to ask questions? Okay. So my last question, would you ever defect to the BJP?
No, Cyrus, I happen to believe in certain things about the country. I believe in pluralism, I believe in democracy, I believe in freedom of expression. I'm an old-fashioned liberal, and these guys are not.
What if they offered you the foreign ministership?
No, we've got a good, capable foreign minister. That's really not the problem. The problem is in which direction the BJP is taking the country. It's not a direction I want to go.
So you're staying with the old party?
No, it's not that. No, no, it's not old. The Congress is perfectly capable of reinvention. I believe Nehru today would not have been the Nehru of 1959. The fact is that people learn from what's going on and they develop and they grow. I'm certainly prepared to see what the new facts are and change my mind as appropriate, but that doesn't mean that on fundamental issues of India's pluralism, the very idea of what India is all about, that I can change.
Okay, fair enough. I think they're going to ask the questions that I don't have to ask now, including what next for the Congress. So, oh God, there are too many. Shashi, you want to sit?
Okay, sure.
Because, yeah, it may take a while. All right, can we pass the mics?
Okay,
And
let's get all the questions.
Let's start. Yeah, come on. Give her right here in the front rows. Do we have a mic? Yeah, I'm coming there. All right. Just tell Dr. Tharoor your name, your ailment, and then he'll give the prescribed medication.
You may have to.
It's on it.
All right, go ahead.
A very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It is general that many political parties lack an ideology. It's that they had an ideology and they don't abide by it anymore. And this is hard for the voters to choose the party. How should we tackle this?
I've often joked that if the Congress party ever went to the old Soviet model where they used to have a member of the Politburo for ideology, I'd want to be it. I have a very clear vision of what my ideology is, and I believe the Congress ideology ought to be. And I have articulated that multiple times. I have done so in writing, I've done so in various speeches. I'll give you a short version of it now. It's very simple, that essentially this is an ideology that emerges from the freedom struggle. At that time, our freedom struggle didn't divide along Marxists versus capitalists or socialists versus liberals or whatever. It divided very simply on religious grounds. One set of people said religion should be the determinant of nationhood. That was the idea of Pakistan, and they created another country. And the other set of people said, no, religion is not the determinant of nationhood. Our freedom struggle is for everybody, of every religion, color, creed, language, stripe, whatever, caste, geography, doesn't matter. We are fighting for everyone. And that idea was the idea of India. And that's the idea that subsequently got reflected in our constitution. So when I speak of the idea of India, I'm speaking of an idea of really trying to maintain a country that enshrines and values diversity and pluralism as strengths rather than as weaknesses. In addition to that, of course, there are certain specific principles. I believe that as far as possible, people should be allowed to lead their own lives without interference, either by the government or by the corporates. They should be allowed to develop themselves, find decent opportunities. I believe very much that I support the government's liberalization of the economy, and I think we should allow the economy to grow. But unlike the BJP, I believe that the revenues and the fruits of that growth need to be distributed to those who don't have anything. That is, that the marginalized, the poor in our society deserve social justice, and that's a Congress party philosophy. I've often argued, even in Parliament, that the magic of the market will not appeal to those who cannot afford to enter the marketplace. So I'm a supporter of the market, but I say those who can't afford to enter the marketplace, let's give them a leg up so one day they can become consumers and everybody will benefit from that stage. So these are some of the basic, if you like, the core economics, the core political philosophy of the Congress. Within the Congress, on economics, I may be more to the right than many of my colleagues in the Congress. On social policy, whether it was legalization of 377, removing 377, whether it's keeping the government out of people's bedrooms and people's kitchens, there I may be more liberal than some in the Congress. But as long as the basic principles of the ideology are laid down, every democratic party must allow people to have slightly different views within that broad umbrella. And that is frankly the ideology of the Congress. This is what we stand for. And I think if people don't stand for this, they really should leave, because there's plenty of other places they can go to which may have a more narrow-minded, more majoritarian, more bigoted view of how our society should be. Okay, but I do believe that what I'm talking about is the very idea that's come from the freedom struggle, and we ought to defend and promote for quite some time to come. It's still relevant.
Sir, another question. Sir, you always keep your cool, you have a really good smile, and your English is just amazing. And you're inspiring in almost every aspect. And they say inspiring people have had a really hard past. So could you just tell us about it?
I don't know what to tell you. You've been very kind, very generous, very sweet to say all that. It's partly, I suppose, one's God-given temperament, partly the way one is brought up, and partly the one seeks to be, way one seeks to be. I mean, you know, the fact is that we all never quite manage our own ideals of ourselves, all of us. To be something we may, for example, want to keep cool under great provocation and fail. We may always think of the perfect comeback line to a Cyrus Brocha crack after he's already left, and if it's too late to reply. One may think of various other things in life that one wishes one could have done better. But you know, you have to just go on, do the best you can. And if by being the best you can be, you can inspire others to be the best that they can be, then it's a win-win for everyone. I always say to young people like you, you know, all you have to do is be the best you that you can be. Nobody else can be you. Just be the best version of yourself that you can aim to be, and the rest will take care of itself.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So, I am Rohan Rai. I'm from Tashinamgal Academy, Gangtok, Sikkim. So, it is indeed a pleasure to be in the same hall as you.
Thank you.
So, it has been a decade since you served the country as the Member of Parliament. What are the changes or reforms you would want to see in the Indian Parliament?
Gosh, there are plenty of changes and reforms. First of all, I think that we should have a much more systematic process of deliberation before we pass laws that can affect millions of citizens of our country. First of all, our parliamentary committees, which in this life, this particular parliament, have not even been constituted yet. Those should really have a chance to look at every law in some detail before it's brought to the House. You know, when a law comes to the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, time is allotted to debate. It can be as little as 2 or 3 hours, as much as 4 to 6 hours, but that's it. So when you've got 543 MPs and you've got 40 odd parties and various parties want to be heard, actually you can't discuss a bill in any meaningful way. Plus, the way the government functions, they come with their minds already made up to vote for the draft they're presenting. So that even the most commonsensical, non-political, constructive suggestions you make in a parliamentary debate tend not to get accepted because they just give a blind whip and they vote against everything the opposition suggests. That's no way, I think, of making laws. I think there should be, first of all, a detailed consideration in the standing committees. They should then amend their laws reflecting the commonsensical suggestion they've received. When Parliament comes up, when opposition members come up with an amendment, they should be of a mind where some of the sensible ones can be immediately accepted by the minister sitting there. But they can't because they've already had their version of the bill approved by the cabinet. And since they can't go back to the cabinet at that time, they just vote against everything the opposition suggests. These things really ought to be changed. In addition, I think the opposition should be given more chances to raise issues. Sorry, if somebody can get me some water, I'd appreciate it. The opposition should be given more chances to raise issues. In many foreign countries, there'll be 1 day a week or at least half a day a week set aside for the opposition to decide the agenda for that day. Thank you so much. Rather than for the government all the time to get only its way. In our system, that's a big problem. And one final example, but I can give you a dozen other examples. One final example given time is the whip system. See, we have this anti-defection law in our country. The anti-defection law was brought in with the best of intentions to prevent people from hopping parties for convenience. Because in a parliamentary system, and by the way, this is one of the great weaknesses of the parliamentary system, you elect a legislature to form the executive. I think it's a terrible idea, but it's an idea we're stuck with. So what happens is that people become MPs not because they want to discuss policy or influence laws, they become MPs in the hope of becoming ministers. That's what the parliamentary system condemns us to. Be that as it may, as a result, the anti-defection law was brought in so people didn't change sides just for office. And when that happened, the whip system became completely entrenched, where on every bill the party decides how everyone should vote, and no individual MP is allowed to use his own conscience, his own intelligence, his own education to take a personal stand. So if you are going to have to vote the way your party tells you to, why be there at all, you might ask? Well, you may as well just be a rubber stamp. Now the problem with that is, first of all, you're depriving the individual MP of his exercise of his own brains, his own grey cells, his own ideas, but equally, you're creating a situation where Parliament becomes meaningless, because from the day one now, we know that every bill and every issue in the Lok Sabha, the BJP has an absolute majority and will always get its way. And that can be a source of some frustration and some despair. Many of us sometimes feel we're speaking in Parliament not for the BJP to listen, because they're not going to listen, but for YouTube, so all of you know what we're saying. And all of you might have some feelings that what we have said reflect your views and may one day influence your thinking. That's not good enough. I think we really need to have a parliament where the whip is confined and the anti-defection law is confined only to very major bills in which the government can rise or fall. But in every other bill, members should be able to speak their own mind, law should be influenceable by conversation, and the anti-defection law should not apply. Today, if one of us disagrees with our party's stand and votes against our party's position on a particular bill, not only can we be disciplined by the party, we can be expelled from Parliament because we violated the anti-defection law. That's not good enough. So these are three things we ought to change at least, and many more.
Thank you, sir. I'm shaking.
Dr. Tharoor, just a quick request, because so many of them want to ask questions. If you can confine your answer to yes or no. Oh, I'm just kidding. But they're going to ask like a three-part question so we can get one big answer out in one go.
Okay.
Go ahead, all three.
Hello. Hi. I'm
Hi.
Umang Singhania from Hyderabad Indus International School.
Right.
And my question to you is, in this speech at Oxford, which was brilliant, in fact, you
Sorry, I
said,
didn't hear that.
No, at this speech at Oxford, you said the British reparations can't be put into monetary form. So if they were to be put in monetary form in today's world, how much do you think they would account for?
You know, it really doesn't. It depends on what value you place on a human life. How do you measure the value of the 35 million Indian deaths, totally unnecessary deaths, in British-created famines, for example? How do you put the value on that? There's one journalist, a kind of BJP-inclined journalist, my friend Minhas Merchant, who actually did an article after my speech in which he worked out a calculation that came to 3 trillion pounds sterling, which is more than the entire GDP of Britain. Now, what's the point? Is any country going to give its entire GDP in reparations to anybody else? I think any calculable amount like that is unpayable. And any payable amount is simply absolutely not worth it, because any amount would actually be an insult to the colossal damage done. Let's put that debt down to history, but let's actually remind them of the moral obligation they have. What I'm talking about is not financial reparations, but moral atonement. And that's what I tried to do in all my speeches and interviews in England and in the Western world after that book came out.
Good evening, sir. I'm I.I.M.U.N from Punjab, and I wanted to ask you a question that you being a member of parliament, you take many losses and many wins. So how do you cope with those losses?
So I didn't quite hear those words. Being a member of parliament, you said?
So being a member of the parliament, you are faced with wins and losses both. So how do you take on the losers?
How do you take on losing? Is that your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I've actually been fairly lucky in that I haven't lost an election in India yet. The only election I lost was... Thank you. I thank the voters of Thiruvananthapuram for having stuck by me. But my party has lost, and that's also difficult for us to swallow, because in a parliamentary system, it's not enough for any individual to win. Enough individual MPs have to win for us to have a chance of forming the government. That's the way it works. So that's been a bit tough to swallow. And I must say that we're grappling with some of the moral implications of victory and loss, even right now, because in the Congress party, when Rahul Gandhi announced that in the interests of showing accountability for the party's defeat, he was stepping aside, it really shook up a lot of people, because, as you know, in every other political party in the country, when they've lost an election, the leader hasn't gone, they've just continued. They say, haar jeet to hote hain, rajnitik baat hai, and then they continue, and then they come back the next election. Sometimes they lose 3, 4, 5 elections in a row, and they're still leaders for life. And we've seen this with everybody, with Mayawati, with the Yadavs, with Karunanidhi, with Jayalalitha, with, you name any favorite big leader you've seen in this country, every one of them has lost elections and not quit. So many have asked, why should Rahul Gandhi quit? He may as well do what everybody else is doing and stay on. But the question of whether defeat carries with it accountability is an important question, and he's asked it. But the problem I have is, in a large party like this, why is only one person accountable? When there is a defeat, when 300 candidates have lost, when so many party leaders, general secretaries, working committee members have been responsible, as it were, for certain states or certain areas where we've not done well, why is only one person accountable? And to my mind, there's something wrong with that too. So dealing with loss and victory is not easy in life or in politics. But in politics, it's all the more hard because it's in the public eye, and it's a public responsibility that you are accountable for. So in my own view, a lot depends on the individual circumstance. Now, you know, when a young person loses an election, he or she will always say, I want to come back and try the next time. When a much older person loses an election, he may say, I'm too tired to keep trying this. If they don't want me, let them try somebody else. So again, the individual circumstances matter. When a party loses the election, the party goes on, whether or not the individual leader does. And the fact is that that's again something that becomes very difficult. But all I can say to you from an individual point of view, because I did lose one election, that was the election for the Secretary General of the UN, and there, where I took solace from was from the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which says that you should do something because it's worth doing in itself, irrespective of the outcome. Right? And I think in all things in life, you don't study hard for the exam only in the hope that you will come first. You study hard for your exams because you need to pass those exams and do as well as you can. You don't enter a race only in order to win. Yes, winning is the best thing. But at least you have to run a good race and feel proud that you did your best at the end of it. That's often what life is all about. Do your best, don't let yourself down, and then loss and defeat and victory and success can be seen in perspective.
Sir, my question is that why did the Congress add the anti-sedition law in their 2019 manifesto?
Why did the Congress do what in the 2019 election? Sorry.
Anti-sedition law.
Yeah, you see the thing about the sedition law, I myself in the previous parliament had brought in a private member's bill to read down the sedition law. The sedition law is a law that first of all was imposed on India by the colonial British. When it was written, it was meant to reflect a very old-fashioned idea of what sedition involves. Then in 1895, it was toughened further in India by the British explicitly stating, the Home Secretary of the day explicitly said, that a law that may apply to our own citizens is not good enough. We must have a tougher law for a subject people. That is the sedition law that exists today. It is a law that treats us as colonized subjects. It's a law that was applied against Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Bhagat Singh, Annie Besant, all sorts of freedom fighters and nationalists. Now, as far back as 1962, the Supreme Court read down the sedition law. It said in a famous case that sedition is only applicable to those acts of violence or incitement to violence against the government. Mere criticism of the government, disaffection with the government, dissent against the government is not sedition. Now that is the Supreme Court's interpretation, which means that that should be the law of the land. But no one has bothered to amend the law, with the result that day after day, year after year, dozens and in some cases hundreds of people are being locked up on sedition charges. They suffer weeks and months in prison before inevitably the court set them free. This is the problem with the sedition law. You can be charged with sedition for drawing a cartoon. You can be charged with sedition for liking a Facebook post. You can be charged with sedition for raising a slogan in a university campus. All these are real cases in the last couple of years. So I said in my private member's bill, we need to rewrite the sedition law to conform to the Supreme Court judgment. That's what the Congress Party manifesto said. I myself recommended that. That the manifesto says that the sedition law should only apply as per the Supreme Court to those cases where people are inciting violence against the government. That's it. It's not meant to be to curb dissent. But unfortunately, our present government and many state governments are using the sedition law the way the British colonial powers did to curb any critic, any voicer of dissent. And that is terrible for our country and for our democracy. So I'm proud of the stand the Congress Party took, even though it was deliberately distorted by the government. Ki ye log tukde tukde gang ke saath hai. What nonsense. You know, it's all about what the law should say, and unfortunately, the demonization of simple, common sense, liberal principles that have already been upheld in 1962 by the Supreme Court is what made this issue look bad when it's actually the right thing to do.
Sir, my name is V. Karthik from Chennai. So my question is, maybe in the future, not right now, but will there be a time where you will be leading the young students with the name of a young party?
You're very sweet to suggest that. Look, I get this kind of question every day, and I always give the same answer, which is that in our country, because we are a parliamentary system and not a presidential one, individual leaders don't matter, parties do, because parties are ultimately what contest elections. Party symbols, party structures, party loyalties very often determine results. We've seen this every time somebody has tried to start a new party. It's very difficult to win seats. I mean, if tomorrow someone like me, let's even take me as an example, tried to start a party, I would say with some immodesty that I could win 5 to 10% everywhere in the country. But that means I would lose every single seat. Right, because to win a parliamentary seat, you need at least 35 or 40% in a particular place each time. And either a party of young people or a party of students or a party of liberals or a party of urban educated professionals, all the categories from which I seem to derive my support, none of them constitute an effective majority in a single parliamentary constituency in India. So think about it. You can have a nationwide appeal. You can appeal to a certain segment of our population throughout the country. But how do you manage to win in a parliamentary system? You can only win through a parliamentary vehicle called a political party, which has bases everywhere, which has strong strength and structures everywhere, and which can appeal to all sectors of society. That's the political reality. It's different, say, in an American presidential type system. That's not what we've got. So in this system, the only way that honestly I see myself making a meaningful contribution is as part of an entrenched political party. Now, if you're willing to give me ideas to do something different, I'm always receptive to ideas. But I've got to be honest with you and to everybody else who asked me the same question. Let's try and work with what we've got and make it better, more effective, more successful, rather than start from scratch. Think in the last 50, 60 years, has there been a party that has come out of nowhere? Even the BJP really is the Jansang of 1951 reinvented. The I.I.M.U.N party essentially has won one city, and everywhere else in the country it's lost its deposit pretty much. Handful of seats here and there. Where have you got a new idea being able to succeed in the parliamentary system? It's very, very difficult. But I appreciate your faith in me, and let's fight together for the values we care about. I do believe this country can be a better country for young people, and we should work to get you that.
So, first off, I'm a huge fan of yours. So,
Thanks.
India is one of the largest economies in the world and is one of the major superpowers. I would like you to comment that shouldn't it be one of the permanent members of the UN Security Council, seeing its huge influence?
Well, I've never been a big fan of the superpower concept because in many ways we're still super poor. So we really have a long way to go before we can talk of ourselves as a superpower. But we are certainly a major country, a significant economy, the largest democracy, lots of things going for us. And I would agree with you that given the weight we displace in the international system, given the fact that we are the largest contributors of peacekeeping troops in the UN, given our support for democracy, our role in development, our role in decolonization, we ought to be one of the handful of powers that really matter in the UN. But I think asking for it and failing to win has been hurting us over the years. We've been trying since 1992 when UN reform was first mooted. And now 27 years later, we are no closer to permanent membership than we were. I've written, by the way, in great detail in a chapter of my book, Pax Indica, which is available in paperback, and I hope you'll read it, the full explanation of the issue and of India's stand and why India hasn't made it so far in that position. But today, my view is beginning to change, that we should now just concentrate on growing ourselves, being so strong and powerful that the other countries come to us and say, please, you join us. Because us seeking it and failing to get it is really not doing us any good. The same has happened to Germany and Japan. Every country says we have a right to be there, and very often they have a good reason to say that. But the truth is that to amend the UN Charter, which is the only way you can get there, you need 2/3 of the General Assembly to agree on it, on any formula, and then you need that formula to be approved by 2/3 of the member states in a parliamentary ratification process, this time including all 5 members, permanent members of the Security Council. In other words, you need to create a formula that is acceptable to 2/3 of the membership and not unacceptable to the permanent 5. That's a pretty tough ask. And as long as this is the way it's going, 27 years later, I think it's for us time now to recalibrate our strategy. Until and unless they decide, the existing five, that their own credibility is eroded because we are not there amongst them, I think we should just concentrate, growing our economy, becoming strong and powerful, becoming influential in the world. Let's be India, as I was saying to these young, let's be the best we can be, and others should come after us now. Let's stop asking for it. I see some hands going up there, but
no, we are running out of time, Dr. Tharoor.
Sure.
And, we have to go for the last question. A sensitive question. Be very careful, sir. Security is right here.
Good evening, sir. My name is Tanesh Jain. I'm from GD Winka International School, Surat.
Hi.
I'm really interested into politics.
Right.
So, as everyone knows, the revoking of Article 370 has been a popular issue, the trending topic here. But we did not get to listen to the opposition's point of opinion. So, what do you believe? What does the opposition believe? The revoking of Article 370 and 35A will have an impact on Kashmir Valley in point of economic approach, in point of social approach, and in point of how it will affect the nation's unity.
Okay. Well, first, if you have 15 minutes to spare, please go on YouTube and listen to my speech in the Lok Sabha on this
So
subject.
I did.
Oh, Mr. Jain, burn, burn, burn.
So
Second, I mean, very simply, there are, as to all these issues, always two sides to every debate. The government's argument is we've tried one way for 70 years, it hasn't worked, we're going to try a different way. Our argument in the opposition is, number one, the Constitution is a sacred living document. We've made certain solemn commitments to the Kashmiri people. If we want to change those commitments, we ought to consult them through their elected representatives first. The elected representatives were in the Assembly. The Assembly has been suspended by the governor, and now they're under President's rule. This is not a time to make far-reaching changes in their life. You know, they woke up one morning and discovered they were no longer in a state. They were in a union territory. That Ladakh was no longer part of their state. A number of things have changed in their life, but even more, they found out in circumstances in which their internet has been cut off, their phone lines have been blocked and jammed, there's a curfew on so they can't go anywhere, their schools have been shut, their college exams have been postponed. They have been essentially clamped down upon with a total blackout since the 5th of August. And there's something very wrong with a country in a democracy, a government in a democracy, taking a major step while keeping people literally in the dark. So to my mind, the first and biggest problem we have is with the way this was done. I said in Parliament that this is like the political equivalent of demonetization. It's a shock decision. Short-term damage is colossal. I'll give you one example, tourism. Tourism was beginning to revive after the troubles of last summer. This year, tourism was building up, tourism from within India and tourism from abroad. We had been successful this year in preventing various foreign governments from issuing advisories to their citizens not to travel to Kashmir. Every year, very frequently, that's what happens. And we lobby unsuccessfully foreign governments to prevent them issuing such advisories. This time, we ourselves have asked tourists to leave the valley. And needless to say, the are back. Tourism has been the lifeline of the Kashmiri economy. Right in the peak of the tourist season, the Amarnath Yatra has been cancelled, tourism is down. That's not a particularly good thing in terms of short-term damage. If you look at the hit to the economy, it goes right across. When tourists don't come, handicrafts, carpets, everything else, sales are affected. Unemployment in Kashmir is double the national average. When tourism goes up, unemployment goes down. When unemployment goes down, terrorists find recruiting more difficult. It's as simple as all that. When you've actually created a situation where you're making avenues for employment through tourism impossible, you're going to find more unemployment rising, less tourism, more terrorism. That's not very good for national security. So it's very difficult to see any positives in the government's abrupt and hasty and, in my view, inadequately consulted decision. Now, we are all patriotic Indians. At the end of the day, we will make these arguments because the nation needs to hear them. But in our heart of hearts, we hope that we're off, that we're wrong, that we hope that the country will succeed. We don't want our country to be engulfed in terrorism and in suffering. We don't want the Kashmiri people to suffer. We don't want Indian people to suffer. But the truth of the matter is that the government has gone about this in a way that, frankly, any Democrat would be somewhat ashamed of. Even their legal justifications are extremely specious. I mean, they have, for example, interpreted the consent of the state government as merely being the consent of the governor. But the governor is their appointee. In other words, they've consulted themselves and made a decision. They've interpreted the consultation with the legislature to mean the approval of our parliament where they already have a majority. Now, these may be things, maybe, that the Supreme Court might uphold as adhering to the spirit, I beg your pardon, adhering to the letter of the law, but they don't uphold the spirit of the law, the spirit of the Constitution in our democracy. So these are things that truly, truly worry me, because a lot of what makes a democracy special, democratic, free, is the spirit, is the way things are done, is the atmosphere within which things are done. When newspapers are reluctant to write critically of the government, when a retired IAS officer writes a powerful criticism in his weekly blog, and then within 24 hours takes it down because all his friends advise him to do so, I mean, you're looking at an atmosphere which is very different from anything our country has experienced except during the emergency. Now, I was a critic of the emergency, so I have nothing to say for that. But the BJP is full of people who criticize the emergency daily, including in the debates in Parliament on Kashmir. How can they act in a way that echoes the very atmosphere, the very spirit in which the heart of the Constitution has been violated, even while upholding the letter of the law? That's what really worries me. But let's hope in the end that all works out for the best. Let me put it very bluntly, I'm normally an optimist on most things. On this one, I find it hard to be optimistic.
Thank you, sir.
All right. First, let's apologize to all the youngsters here because you all want to ask questions, but there's just so much time for now. But I've asked Rishabh, and we're going to do a special show with Dr. Shashi Tharoor, if he allows us, because there's so many who want to ask so many questions, including how do you get your hair done and all, which I didn't allow, because that would also take a long time to explain, so I didn't want to. But let's give a big hand to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, please. Dr. Tharoor, you can see the reaction you've got. Maybe that's a message for your party if they're looking for new leadership right at the helm. I think the message is here. India's going to be, what, 65% under the age of 30 very soon? So maybe we'll send a video of this to them. But let's give him a big round of applause once again. And can we call Rishabh? Wow, standing ovation. Excellent. Standing ovation, they insist. Rishabh, our leader, the man behind I.I.M.U.N. The selfie stick doesn't work.